In April 2004, the world was shocked to see a series of photographs of the U.S. military personnel abusing detainees at the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. They committed a series of human rights violations consisting of physical and sexual abuse, torture, rape, sodomy, and murder. Psychologists say that it was due to conformity.
In 1963, American psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted an experiment investigating into the extent of conformity and obedience in the human mind. Experimenters were requested to electrify the learner, who was a Confederate, each time a question was answered incorrectly. The result of the experiment showed that because of the way we were brought up, conforming to authority is a behavior ingrained into humans. This is a very valid application to the soldiers and military police at the prison, as they merely followed orders from their leaders, seeing that it was a way of serving the country. At the prison, guards were told, "It is your job to soften the prisoners up. We give you permission to do something you ordinarily are not allowed to do as a military policeman, to break the prisoners, to soften them up, and to prepare them for interrogation." This was permission for them to step across the line from what is typically restricted behavior to what is now unrestricted behavior. Another popular psychology study that can be applied to this case would be Philip Zimbardo's 1971 Stanford prison experiment. What Zimbardo found that people's behavior can sometimes be situational rather than dispositional. It was found that the institutional forces and peer pressure led normal student volunteer guards to disregard the potential harm of their actions on other student prisoners. Zimbardo says that all you really need is a situation that facilitates moving across that line of good and evil, and having a motive is not necessary. Like the Confederate prison guards in the experiment, Zimbardo claims that the soldiers were told to do whatever they have to do, and the environment in there was a war zone. He also states that the soldiers were under high fear and high stress, seeing that they worked 12-hour shifts 7 days a week, and that the prisons had filled up with thousands of prisoners within 3 months. Zimbardo says that this kind of stress reduces decision-making, critical thinking, and rationality. You minimize social responsibility, he explains. Nobody knows who you are, so therefore you are not individually liable. There's also a group effect when you are all masked. It provides a fear in other people because they can't see you and you lose your humanity. He also explains that it's not just seeing people hurt, it's doing things that give you a sense of control over the behavior of other people in ways that you typically don't.
Most young adults are inclined to behave in line with social conventions and pressures from around them, especially in the ambiguity of this situation. According to the National Defense University, it is important that standards of behavior are clear and explicit throughout all phases of an operation, so that leaders at all levels represent and reinforce those standards. According to multiple reports, there was genuine uncertainty in the chain of command and who was in charge. Additionally, delegated leadership was practiced. This hands-off approach led to poor communication, with many guards seeing their silence as leaders conveying approval of these abusive behaviors. The guards also lacked training, specifically with prisoner handling procedures and techniques. Therefore, they were unable to discipline prisoners and enforce standards of behavior. The psychological stressors of the situation, including difference in culture, soldiers' quality of life, the real presence of mortal danger over an extended period of time. Generally, this was a combination of ambiguity, isolation, powerlessness, boredom, and danger.
One's personality or hardiness may contribute to a strong sense of commitment to life, a belief in one's own ability to exercise control. Recent studies show hardiness influenced short and long-term mental adjustment to major stressors. Additionally, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and openness of the Big Five personality traits contribute to more effective leadership. However, more studies are needed to specify the Big Five personality factors associated with better performance leaders in military operations. This can help lead to more refined selection and assignment strategies. For example, it may be that persons high in agreeableness make more compassionate and effective prison guards, and less likely to engage in prisoner abuse. The United States government has repeatedly sought to portray the abuse as an isolated incident, the work of a few bad apples acting without orders. Generally, we want to believe that we could never be a bad apple. but we can still be influenced regardless of intention to resist. Jeremy Sivitz, a soldier during the Abu Ghraib scandal, was only recently released from the prison, with his sentence being dereliction of duty for counts related to taking a picture and failing to stop the mistreatment of detainees. Known for his polite manner and his eagerness to help out, Sivitz was said to be a courteous kid, someone who would ask him to do something and he'd do it. And whatever consequences there were, well, that's what it is. Herman Rawlings, a Korean War veteran, regards him as a nice young man. He believed Sivitz was following orders in Iraq and that the punishment was unfair.
It was said that before taking action, President Bush was warned that actions like these would undermine U.S. military culture, which emphasizes maintaining the highest standards of conduct in combat, and would introduce an element of uncertainty in the status of adversaries. However, he ignored these warnings, and his administration proceeded to claim that new wars cannot be won with old rules. This would go on to party officials allowing torture and cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment. Had Bush and his administration listened to the warnings and followed the U.S. military's usual conduct in combat, the guards' situational behavior may have been less violent and inhumane. However, the authorities said so. This can be claimed because the fact that the prison guards took pictures of their cruel acts shows that they had nothing to hide from those higher in power.